Princesses are usually remembered for dazzling crowns, dramatic romances, or the extraordinary power they wielded behind palace walls. But one royal woman, born into the very heart of the British monarchy, slowly disappeared from public memory despite witnessing some of the greatest royal scandals of the 20th century. She was the only sister of King Edward VIII, the monarch who gave up an empire for love. While history endlessly retells Edward's abdication, very few people ask what happened to the sister who stood silently beside him through triumph, heartbreak, war, and family division. Her name was Princess Mary, and her remarkable life deserves to be remembered. Before we uncover the forgotten story of Britain's overlooked princess, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week we bring you fascinating royal stories that history almost erased. Princess Mary was born on April 25, 1897, at York Cottage on the Sandringham estate. She entered a world where duty came before personal happiness. Her father would later become King George V, and her mother, Queen Mary, was known for her strict discipline and unwavering devotion to the monarchy. Unlike many royal daughters of earlier generations, Mary was not raised to simply smile for portraits and attend lavish balls. She received an excellent education and developed a strong sense of responsibility from an early age. Yet growing up in the royal household was far from easy. Emotional warmth was often replaced by rigid expectations, and every member of the family was constantly reminded that personal desires came second to royal duty. Mary had 5 brothers. Among them was the charismatic Prince Edward, the future King Edward VIII. As children, the siblings shared moments of laughter, games, and family holidays. But even then, their personalities were very different. Edward loved attention, freedom, and excitement. He charmed crowds effortlessly and became one of the most popular princes in Europe. Mary, meanwhile, remained quiet, dependable, and deeply committed to her responsibilities. While Edward dreamed of escaping royal restrictions, Mary accepted them without complaint. No one could have imagined how dramatically their paths would diverge. The First World War transformed Britain, and Princess Mary refused to remain a passive observer. Rather than living comfortably behind palace walls, she threw herself into charitable work. She visited wounded soldiers, supported hospitals, and became a symbol of encouragement for families whose loved ones were fighting overseas. One of her most memorable contributions came in 1914 with the creation of the famous Princess Mary Christmas Gift Fund. Hundreds of thousands of British servicemen received specially designed gift boxes containing items such as tobacco, sweets, writing materials, or small comforts from home. The gifts became treasured reminders that the nation had not forgotten them during the horrors of war. For many soldiers, that simple box represented hope during humanity's darkest days. After the war, Mary's life entered a happier chapter. In 1922, she married Henry Lascelles, Viscount Lascelles, who later became the Earl of Harewood. The wedding attracted enormous public attention. It was one of the first major royal weddings to capture the imagination of people across Britain after years of wartime suffering. Their marriage produced 2 sons, George and Gerald. Although the marriage was respectful, historians have often suggested it was more practical than romantic. Like many royal marriages of that era, duty and stability mattered more than passion. Even so, Mary devoted herself wholeheartedly to her family while continuing an extraordinary schedule of public engagements. Then came the event that would forever change the British monarchy. In January 1936, King George V died. Mary's beloved brother Edward became King Edward VIII. For a brief moment, the family appeared united as Edward prepared to reign over the British Empire. But behind palace doors, a crisis was rapidly unfolding. Edward had fallen deeply in love with Wallis Simpson, an American divorcee whose relationship with the king created a constitutional storm. The British government, the Church of England, and much of the establishment opposed the marriage. As pressure mounted, the royal family found themselves trapped between loyalty to a brother and loyalty to the crown. Princess Mary faced one of the greatest emotional challenges of her life. She loved Edward as her brother, but she also understood the immense importance of preserving the monarchy. In December 1936, Edward made the decision that stunned the world. Rather than abandon Wallis Simpson, he chose to abdicate the throne. His younger brother Albert reluctantly became King George VI. History remembers Edward's famous declaration that he could not carry out his duties without the help and support of the woman I love. But far less attention has been paid to the emotional toll this decision placed upon his siblings, especially Mary. She suddenly watched one brother walk away from the throne while another brother accepted a burden he had never expected to bear. Unlike Edward, Mary never publicly criticized the monarchy or sought attention during the crisis. She quietly supported King George VI and continued performing royal duties exactly as expected. That loyalty became even more important during the Second World War. As Britain endured relentless bombing, food shortages, and uncertainty, Princess Mary worked tirelessly with military organizations, hospitals, nursing services, and charitable institutions. She visited troops, comforted wounded servicemen, and inspired volunteers across the country. While Edward and Wallis lived abroad under controversial circumstances, Mary remained firmly committed to Britain's wartime effort. Many historians believe her steady dedication helped reinforce public confidence in the royal family during one of its most difficult periods. After the war, Mary's influence continued, although largely outside newspaper headlines. She became patron of countless charities and organizations, dedicating thousands of hours to public service. Unlike more glamorous royals, she rarely attracted sensational headlines. There were no shocking scandals. No explosive interviews. No public feuds. Instead, she quietly spent decades fulfilling the responsibilities expected of a princess. Ironically, it may have been this very sense of duty that caused history to overlook her. Modern audiences often remember dramatic personalities. Edward VIII is remembered because he gave up the throne. Later generations remember Princess Diana because she transformed public perceptions of royalty. Queen Elizabeth II is remembered because of her record-breaking reign. But Princess Mary remained almost invisible despite serving the crown faithfully for over 50 years. Her personal life also brought sorrow. Her husband died in 1947 after 25 years of marriage. Mary continued her royal work despite her grief, showing the same resilience that had defined her entire life. She also witnessed enormous changes within her family. She saw her niece, Princess Elizabeth, become Queen Elizabeth II following the death of King George VI in 1952. She watched Britain transition from imperial superpower to modern constitutional monarchy. She observed the royal family adapting to television, changing social expectations, and an increasingly critical press. Throughout these transformations, Mary remained a symbol of continuity. She never demanded recognition. She never sought celebrity. She simply carried on. Perhaps one of the most remarkable aspects of Princess Mary's character was her ability to maintain relationships despite painful family divisions. Although Edward's abdication caused lasting wounds within the royal family, Mary reportedly remained one of the few relatives who maintained occasional contact with her exiled brother. It was an incredibly delicate balancing act. She respected the institution of the monarchy while never entirely abandoning her affection for Edward as a brother. That quiet compassion revealed a side of Mary's personality often ignored by history books. She understood that behind crowns and titles stood ordinary human beings capable of making heartbreaking choices. Princess Mary died on March 28, 1965, at the age of 67. Her passing received respectful coverage, but it lacked the worldwide attention often given to more famous members of the royal family. As the decades passed, her name slowly faded from public conversation. Today, many people know almost everything about Edward VIII's abdication but very little about the sister who witnessed it all. Yet when historians examine the British monarchy during the 20th century, Princess Mary's contribution becomes impossible to ignore. She supported soldiers through 2 world wars. She represented stability during constitutional crisis. She strengthened charities across Britain. She upheld the dignity of the crown without seeking personal glory. Most importantly, she demonstrated that true leadership is not always measured by crowns, headlines, or dramatic speeches. Sometimes it is measured by decades of quiet service performed without applause. The forgotten princess never ruled a kingdom. She never wore the imperial state crown. She never changed history with a single dramatic decision. Instead, she changed lives one hospital visit, one charitable mission, one act of compassion, and one lifetime of unwavering duty at a time. While King Edward VIII will forever be remembered as the monarch who gave up his throne for love, Princess Mary deserves to be remembered for something equally extraordinary. She never abandoned her responsibilities. She never stopped serving her country. And even as history focused on louder, more controversial members of her family, she remained exactly what the monarchy needed during its most uncertain years, a quiet, dependable presence whose greatest legacy was not fame, but faithful service. Perhaps that is why, even though history nearly forgot Princess Mary, those who discover her story today often leave with a deeper appreciation for the unseen figures who help shape great institutions. Sometimes the people who make the least noise leave behind the strongest example, and in the long history of the British royal family, Princess Mary stands as one of its finest and most overlooked examples of grace, resilience, and unwavering duty.